Main event, Curtis Blaydes against Chris Daukaus. It's not massively blowing my skirt up, if I'm honest. Because, I mean, look, Curtis Blaydes, I'm a huge fan of Curtis Blaydes. Is he the most exciting? No, but there is a possibility there for him to be exciting. If you remember what he did to Alistair Overeem, I mean, the way he split his wig with that elbow from Mount, it was just nasty. The way the blood sprayed like across the canvas, it looked like it was like in a film. It looked like he killed him. It was ridiculous. And Chris Daukaus, look, Chris Daukaus is a knockout machine. 4 fights before he got like knocked out by Lewis. No shame in that. You're against the Black Beast. Derek Lewis has the most knockouts in UFC history. There's no shame in getting knocked out by that dude. If I in fact called that one, I thought, you know what, Daukaus might come unstuck here. Because Lewis came in as an underdog in that fight, and you got pretty decent odds on the knockout, and that was like, and I thought that was pretty easy money. And obviously, you know, it's always easy if it comes out. But yeah, anyway. Losing by knockout to Derek Lewis, that is not the end of the world. Is that going to shake his confidence? You don't know. You just don't know. This is part of the problem with making these picks. Dan Hardy alluded to it on his podcast. It's like he's absolutely right. Watch Full Reptile, by the way. Full Reptile is Dan Hardy's channel. His breakdowns are fucking fantastic. The dude knows what he's talking about. Obviously, he used to be a fighter. He knows a lot more than I do, and I love listening to him. Honestly, do. But yeah. But yeah, he said about, look, when you're picking these fights, it's like there's so much you don't know. You don't know if they're having a good week, bad week. You don't know if their missus has pissed them off that day. You don't know if they've had like, you know, a stomach bug or an ear infection. You don't know if they're feuding with one of their mates or if they've got something else on their mind. You just don't know. There are so many variables to human beings, and yeah, so it can be very difficult to pick these. Now, one thing I would say for the Curtis Blaydes Daukaus fight is that Blaydes, he cuts down to 265. He is a big boy. He is huge, especially once he gets into the octagon as well. Daukaus, I think he weighs in about what, 250. So I think that is what he walks around at. So I think you'll see Daukaus walking into the cage at about 250, whereas Blaydes, he could be up to 280, 290 easy when he's in there, and that makes a difference when Curtis Blaydes. Well, when you've got a wrestler as good as Curtis Blaydes, that size difference makes a difference. Because he wasn't able to have his own way with Derek Lewis, because again, the opponent they've got in common, Derek Lewis, knocked them both out. Now, one of the problems was that Curtis Blaydes was struggling to get Lewis to the ground, I think, because Lewis is a big dog himself, he's huge. Whereas Daukaus is slightly smaller. I don't think Blaydes is going to have as much difficulty getting his takedowns going as he did against Lewis. That being said, Daukaus is actually a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Now, for me, we know where this fight is going, right? Daukaus, like, he loves to strike. He is a knockout machine. He had 4 fights in the UFC before Derek Lewis. 4 KOs, 3 knockouts of the night. The dude can crack. He can bang. Make no mistake about it. But is Curtis Blaydes going to let him strike? I think Blaydes, he knows what his bread and butter is. He makes no secret of it. He always says this: I'm going to come there. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to then just beat on you until either the ref stops me or I get the decision. That's what I'm going in there to do. So, I think we know where this fight is going. I think we know it's going to the ground. I'm not sure if Daukaus has got that. I don't know. He has got power. He has got a lot of power. Blaydes does seem to be susceptible to getting knocked out. But to be fair, he's only been knocked out by Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. So, yeah, of course he's going to get knocked out by those guys. They're animals. But I think that Blaydes is probably going to get the takedowns here. And I'm interested to know, obviously, Daukaus is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. How good is he off his back? That's the real question, isn't it? Because some guys, they're just better from top position. But then you've got guys like Frank Mir, who were absolute killers off their back. Guys like Paul Craig, who are absolute killers off their back. And then you've got other guys, Matt Brown springs to mind, Luke Rockhold, where their top game is crushing, just crushing. When they get into top position, they're just kind of unbeatable. So it depends which kind of black belt Daukaus is there. I'm rolling the dice on Daukaus being good off of his back. And I think, again, this is another one for me where the bookies, look, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but the bookies have definitely made the odds longer on the submission for Daukaus than they should be. Because anyone that's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt should not be 14-1 to get the submission, especially against a guy who is most likely going to wrestle with him. I don't see that Curtis Blaydes I don't think that his path to victory, even in his mind, is to stand and strike with Daukaus. So he is most likely going to go for takedowns because that is where he's strongest. That is his bread and butter. And there is every chance that Blaydes gets the takedowns, smothers him and beats him up and just shrugs off any and all submission attempts because he's a strong guy and he's an excellent wrestler. And those wrestlers, they know what the submissions are. They do jiu-jitsu themselves. They know, right? They know what you're trying to do and they know the counters to it. But not always. And if a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good enough, they can sometimes find those submissions. And I just think that we're going to see, it's 5 rounds. I think we're going to see 5 rounds of basically, either Curtis Blaydes in top position, as long as he doesn't get knocked out first round, which could happen. Curtis Blaydes in top position with Daukaus looking for opportunities to get the submission. I think over 5 rounds, there is at least a chance that Daukaus finds that submission. So I'm taking 14-1 for Daukaus to get the submission. Don't get me wrong, the smarter play here, double chance, is actually +4, 3-1 in English, on the knockout or submission for Daukaus. I've put that on as just a £5 free bet. The returns are minimal. But for me, I like to really narrow it down because these bets are supposed to be fucking terrible. So I'm going for it. 14-1, +15, Daukaus by submission. I'm putting that together with my other bets here. So I am taking Oleinik by submission. I am taking Barberena by knockout. And I am taking Chris Daukaus by submission. That, ladies and gentlemen, is 292.50-1. That is terrible. Absolutely awful. I'm going to be recapping these bets next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, somewhere around that time. And I'm sure they'll be back to terrible form. I apologise for getting so many of them right last week. And yeah, thank you for your support. If you could just like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. If you're watching on the Friday night on the Patreon, thank you for subscribing to the Patreon. And yeah, until next time, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.